Good morning, Year 7s. We're going to do some prac stuff today. So we're going to be working on predict, observe and explain. So what I'll need you to do is I'll need you to copy out this table. So I'd like you to put the heading in your book, Groovin' Sultanas, write down the materials and then put that table in. So once you've done that, you might want to pause the video so that you've got time to copy this down. So we're not going to use the words predict, observe and explain because we're really good scientists. We're going to use the words hypotheses, observations and conclusions. It pretty much means the same thing. We're going to make an educated guess on what we think is going to happen. We're going to write down our observations. And then I'm going to talk you through what actually did happen. Okay? Okay. So hopefully you've written that table out for me, and I'm going to do a demonstration for you. I'm going to be using sodium bicarbonate, I'm going to be using vinegar, and I'm going to be using some sultanas. Okay? All right, let's go. So you need to write down your hypotheses before I start. What do you think's going to happen? So make sure you press pause. I'm going to add the sodium bicarbonate now. Ooh, that's a lot. I'm going to add the sultanas. So we have our sodium bicarbonate and we have our sultanas. All right, now hopefully you made a guess of what you think is going to happen. And sorry if you can't quite see me, I'm doing this on my own. Okay, so let's go with the vinegar. Hopefully you've written down your hypotheses. The next thing you'll need to do while this is going on is you'll need to write down your observations. We went overboard. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to really have a look what's going on in this gas jar. So we've got the bicarb down the bottom and you've got your sultanas. I want you to talk about what you can see going on in the vinegar. And then I want you to try and come up with a conclusion. Why do you think? Why are those sultanas rising up and then falling down? Rising up and falling down. I'd like you to pause the video now before I give away the answers. Okay, Year 7s. So what do you think is going on in this gas jar? Well, let's have a look. We had some sodium bicarbonate and we had some vinegar. And when we added the vinegar, it created all these bubbles. Another question is, what do you think the bubbles are made up of? Sodium bicarbonate. It's making bubbles. They're going to be carbon dioxide, those bubbles. And have a look where those bubbles are. Those bubbles are surrounding the sultanas. If I show you a sultana up close, if I can, They're wrinkly and they're dry. So what's happening is those bubbles are getting trapped in the wrinkles of the sultana. And the bubbles, they contain carbon dioxide, and that's lighter. So the carbon dioxide wants to get to the surface and it wants to escape out into the atmosphere because it's a gas. So what happens is that once there's enough bubbles around the sultanas, it's going to give it enough buoyancy, it's going to give it enough to float to the top. But what happens when it gets to the top is that those bubbles, they pop. And once they pop, the sultana doesn't have any of that buoyancy to lift it up. And they fall back down. Well done, Year 7s. That's the first one. What I'd like you to do now is to pause your video and write out my explanation. All right, wonderful Year 7s. This is the next part that I'm going to get you to put in your notebook, please. So if you could draw out another 2 tables, one to do with sodium bicarbonate and vinegar and one for copper sulfate and sodium carbonate. Now we've just done a very similar to that top one, so I've added an extra question there. What if we added detergent to it? So if you can pause the video there and copy out those 2 tables in your book, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Year 7s. Okay, fantastic. Let's get this show on the road. So the first thing I would like you to do is you're going to write in your hypothesis. So an educated guess of what you think is going to happen. What is going to happen when I add the vinegar into the bicarbonate soda? As I'm doing that, I want you to then write down your observations. Okay? Once you've written down your observations, you're going to try and explain those observations. What was going on? And the explanation for the dancing sultanas will help you with this one. And then I will go through and I'll give my explanation for you. And then we'll add the detergent. Okay, let's get this show on the road. I've just added some food dye into the vinegar to make it a bit easier for you to see. I will move this one out of the way just a little bit while we do the first one. So I'm just adding vinegar that's got red food colouring in it, but all it is vinegar, and we've got some bicarb in here. Okay, so this is where you need to pause the video and you need to write down your observations and why you think, what you think happened in the reaction. So what's your idea? What's going on? Okay, so what's going on with our beaker here is that the sodium bicarbonate is reacting with the vinegar and it's producing those carbon dioxide bubbles. And it bubbles up, and then once it's all reacted, it stops or it slows down. Now, what do you think is going to happen when I add detergent? You don't have to drop another predict, observe, explain. I just want you to have a think. What's going to happen when I add detergent? Are the bubbles going to be bigger, smaller, faster, slower? So let's replace this one with this one over here. It's got the bicarbonate soda in it. And what I have here is a beaker with some vinegar and some detergent in it. Let's just give it a little bit of a mix up. Did you get it? Did you figure out that it was going to go slower? Look at that. Your reaction's going to go forever. So this is actually something that you could do at home. Ask mum or dad first, but in your pantry you might have some vinegar, you might have some bicarb, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have some detergent. So, try it without the detergent, try it with the detergent. You don't need the food colouring. Have fun, little scientists. I'm going to show you the next experiment, so I'll get that ready while you're maybe making a hypothesis. What do you think is going to happen when I add copper sulfate and sodium carbonate together?